What's up? Once again, you're on with the Black Comic Lords, and this is Wakanda Whiskey and Blurred, our late night happy hour where we drink some good whiskey, talk about our favorite boy T'Challa in the comics, and whatever else goes through our whiskey-addled minds. My name is Paul. With me is my partner Marc.
What's going on? What's going on?
Over there. Hey, man. Found it out.
Oh, bro.
Wrong
there
way.
we go.
There
Wrong way. Got it.
So what's going on with you, man? How's your week?
Week was it was challenging. You know, being a defense attorney can be challenging, dealing with certain clients, dealing with certain prosecutors, et cetera, et cetera. But you know, do what you got to do. That's why they pay us the money.
Yeah, that good the drug dealer money goes really well. Cash, no tax free. What was that grimace? What the hell are you drinking?
Dude, like I mentioned before, this is the Charles Woodson whiskey that I previewed or reviewed a couple of months ago. I had a couple of swallows left, so I wanted to go ahead and get rid of it. I didn't get a chance to go to the liquor store yet because from now on, we're not going to do a new whiskey every week because, you know, between the books and the whiskey, that's dang near $200 a week on just, you know, doing this. So once a month, we're going to do a new whiskey. We're going to preview a new whiskey. Didn't get a chance to get to the store today or this week, so I'm finishing up some of the old stuff that I have. And this is the Charles Woodson bourbon, and it's even as a cocktail, it's just not good. It is. Yeah, this is not good. I made an old fashioned with it, and it's not a good whiskey at all.
Wow, even the old fashioned couldn't save it.
Could not save it. No.
Wow.
Because, you know, the whiskey is not, it hasn't been matured. I want to say it was only in the barrels for less than a year. I want to say between 4 and 6 months, if memory serves. You know, that's the whole point of whiskey is aged. So it's imbued with the flavor of the barrel, right? The charred oak barrel. This has nothing. It's just not good. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for your experience, man.
Yeah, man. It's not good at all.
It sounds distressful.
Yep.
Hey, let's say what's up to the chat. Pericles Dragon Balls was good. Rest in peace to Carl Weathers.
Yeah, when you talk about
Indeed.
that, yeah.
Indeed. What's up, Derek? Juju in the building.
I follow him on Twitter.
That's right. What's up, Juju?
Juju, he's supposed to be getting me some action figures or something, but I ain't got them yet. Don't think I forgot.
Did you pay him?
Wasn't no talk about no money.
Well, there you go. Amir from the One on One podcast says you have a dope shirt.
Appreciate it. This was probably one of the Walmart shirts that I got for like $7.99. Paul and I have said this time and time again, but you youngsters, and by that I mean you folks who out there who are 35 and younger, don't understand how good you have it. Both Paul and I are north of 50, right?
Wow, just putting our information all
Yes,
out.
I will. I'll give them your address too if you keep messing with me. Okay. Back when we were kids and younger folks, like even in our 20s, you would be hard pressed to find nerd related materials out there, right? You may be able to find a shirt somewhere, something like that. Now, nerd culture is ubiquitous. You can go to practically any type of store, be it Target, Walmart, or any store in the mall, like Hot Topic, blah, blah, blah. You will be able to find nerd gear. And I don't mean just a shirt, hats, socks, boxers, wallets, things of that nature. I mean, you guys have it good nowadays. You should be really thankful for the time that we live in.
You sound really jealous of the youth of today.
Well, it's not jealous. It's just I'm appreciative of what we have. Why do I keep picking this up? I'm really appreciative of where we are, where we've come as a society when it comes to nerd culture. Because as you well know, back in the day, we were the fringe elements of society. Now it's mainstream.
It was not cool to be into what we're into. Now everybody can't get enough of it, and they make $1 billion movies over it.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about our first.
Stop. What are you drinking?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention what I'm drinking. Let's see. I'm out of a lot of whiskey. I'm saving our bottle for when you are ready to do our newest one. So I went into the bar at home and picked up this bottle of Glenfiddich Perpetual Collection VAT 3. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay.
15 Scotch.
So typically what we've been doing for the past, what's it been, about 6-7 months at this point, we've been focusing on Black-owned distilleries. Now in my bar, I've got several different whiskeys, Scotch, bourbons, whatever, Irish whiskeys, that are not Black-owned, but I've left those alone for these spaces. I only focus on our Black ones now, and I'm thinking I may need to go get something else because this Charles Woodson is just not.
Yeah. Bo Big says, new month, new bottle of booze.
That is correct. That is correct.
We do have a new bottle, but I have one. Mark's slacking off. Didn't get a chance to go to the liquor store and hook himself up.
Yeah. I got to figure out what I'm going to get. Now, even though it's not a whiskey, Shannon Sharps, a.k.a. Unc, has his Le Portier cognac. And in one of the stores that I was in the other day, they didn't have anything Black-owned, so I didn't buy anything. But that stuff goes for $100 a bottle. I've not yet spent that much on a liquor yet.
Haven't?
I've never spent 100 or more. No, I want to say probably the most that I've spent is between 75 and 80. So that's what was that somebody said about 37?
That was Amir, 100 podcast.
You're still a child. You're still young.
Still a child. Black don't crack.
What's going on, NBA?
What's going on, NBA? All right, so we always start off with our boy T'Challa. So that's our first section.
Keep going back! Keep going back! Keep going back! Keep going back!
All right.
Black Panther didn't have an individual book yet.
No.
And I think we discussed this last week when we did discuss it last week when we got the news. But Dr. Ewing's run on Black Panther is going to come to an end after issue number 10. But then I think next week, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to get the ultimate version of Black Panther by Brian Hill. So there won't be any lag in Black Panther content, but just in main continuity, we're going to be lacking for his own title because he's still in the Avengers and things of that nature. Well, this week, Marvel Voices dropped, and Marvel Voices Legend, and this is something that they've been doing for the past couple of years, that they'll drop a Black-centric book on Black History Month and during Juneteenth. And so this is this month's version. Now, this is basically an anthology. And because the book dropped just this week, we're not going to go into the stories specifics, but suffice to say, there are 4 individual stories in here, one of which focuses on T'Challa. The other one has an appearance by him. And of the 4 stories, the one that focuses on T'Challa is my favorite. My second favorite is the first story. Yeah. And then the other 2 are just equally equal. So not good or bad, just the same. What did you think?
Well, first of all, shout out to Bo Big. Shots fired. Man hooked us up with a super chat. Good super chat. In fact, you're gonna get the my favorite super chat video for that.
Tonight Guerrero is fine. Goodness gracious.
No comment. All right, so here's the thing. I wanted to talk about both the books. I mean, let me share the screen here. Both these books came out at the same time. As Mark just mentioned, we have Marvel Voices Legends. I'm going to talk about them individually a little bit first. As you see on the cover, you've got Cap Falcon, Monica Rambeau, Misty Knight, Patriot, Blue Marvel, Ghostlight. Of these characters, the only ones that actually show up in the book, in story, is Patriot, Misty Knight, and Sam Wilson's more of a background character.
He makes a cameo. A cameo is the best way to say it.
A glorified cameo. Not even a glorified cameo. It was just straight cameo. These other 3 characters aren't in the book. This has been a consistent problem I've always had with Marvel Voices, is putting characters on the cover that are not inside the book. Just my little criticism.
False
because I get excited to see the first story of Ghostlight outside of a series, and he's not in the book. That's just my personal gripe. Going further into the book, there's something I want to point out. Let's talk about the various stories they actually have within the book itself.
Don't give any spoilers, though.
I'm not giving spoilers. Calm down. So this is basically the sort of table of contents. Right off the rip, it's important to note the creators that went into making this book. Not only is this book a Black History Month book that celebrates Black characters, it's also a book that celebrates Black creators. Now, there's been a lot of talk in our space about, should we celebrate these books when what we really want is representation 365 days of the year, not just in February. I get that. I agree with that. But that's not to discount the significance of the book. I understand it's cool to go all fight the power and say, I'm not going to buy the book because I'm taking a stance against Marvel's lack of diversity. But it's not as simple as that. because it's not like they don't ever release any books. But when you have the world's most recognized black superhero in the world have their book canceled for low sales, what does that tell you? We're not buying the books. When I say we, I don't mean you guys are watching me because I know you guys write the books, but the random people, the casuals, the mainstream comic buyers, white people, aren't buying the book. All of us, a lot of us aren't buying the book either, to be honest with you. So money talks. So because ultimately this is a business. And if the books aren't selling, they're not going to be made. It's as simple as that. It's economics. We can gripe as much about, it's important to have representation and everything, but you also got that representation has to come represent and buy the books. So it's a double-edged sword. But I wanted to note some of these creators. David Walker, a writer who I swear I saw in an interview somewhere say, I'm not going back to Marvel.
Did he win the Eisner? Is he an Eisner winner? Or was he just nominated?
He might have for Bitter Root. Because I think Bitter
I
Root.
don't know if he won the Eisner, but something is telling me that he's associated with the Eisner. For those who don't know, the Eisner is to comic books what the Grammys are to music, the Oscars are to movies, and the Emmys are to television. So it's kind of a big deal. And I want to say that he has one or was nominated for one. While you're talking, I'm going to look this up so I can figure out.
So David Walker does a cool story about Patriot, which is a character we have not seen in some time. And quite honestly, it's ironic that Patriot and Cap Falcon are on the same cover. Because I'm on record saying I'm not a big fan of the Cap Falcon concept. Falcon is one of Marvel's, if not, well, at least reported Marvel's first African American superhero in comics back in 1969. He's had his own identity he's a Silver Age character with a long history. There is no reason to give him someone else's mantle. There's just none. Particularly when there's a better, more logical candidate to give the Captain America mantle to, but none other than the grandson of Isaiah Bradley, the first Captain America.
Whose story was told in Truth, Red, White, and Black.
Red, White, and Black.
You can pick up the trade paperback at this point because that story came out about 15, 16 years ago if you don't want to hunt down the individual volumes. But that is a very, very important story. He was played in live action in Falcon and the Winter Soldier by Carl Lumbly. And I've been advocating since that appearance I don't need to see Agatha Harkness. I don't need to see Vision having their own shows. I want to see personally a show about Isaiah Bradley set during the Korean War and the Vietnam War, and then telling the story of what he had to deal with as a black man dealing with these powers during that time period. That's what I personally want to see. But anyway,
yeah. And certainly his grandson, who actually has super soldier serum in his system. He actually is an augmented person.
He's not a
Sam
mutant.
Wilson is not.
He's not a mutant.
So he is the more logical candidate if you want to continue the legacy of Captain America. Give Patriot the shield. He has Cap's powers. He has the legacy of being the grandson of the original Captain. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
If you want to promote the legacy of a character and pass the mantle on, he's the logical choice. He's already there. And where is he currently in comics? Nowhere.
Right.
This is the first appearance we've had of Patriot since Black Panther 24 and 25, the Coates run. What
a lot of people may not know is that back in the 1970s, really, Falcon was basically Captain America's sidekick, right? There was a comic book, Captain America and Falcon. That's what it was. And for a number of years, whenever you would see Falcon, it was in the pages it was in the pages of Captain America. They shared a book. Now, it's not uncommon for a Steve Rogers Captain America sidekick to have that mantle. Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, was his sidekick, and he actually had the mantle of Captain America for a period of time. So, from a certain standpoint, I get it, I understand, but Paul is not wrong. I mean, Falcon is an original character. He should be carrying on that legacy that he himself, Sam Wilson, started. And Paul's absolutely right that why not bring Patriot in, right? He's sitting on the sideline. I mean, he's somebody who could be the Captain America for the new generation, much like Miles Morales is the new Spider-Man for the new generation.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that makes perfect sense. And what Paul is
Absolutely.
saying in reference to comic books, that's why this space is, I feel, important, because I'm not like Paul when it comes to reading solicits and things of that nature. I'm old school. I go into the comic book store, I see what's there. I ask my comic book guy, I'm like, hey, what's out? Blah, blah, blah. And that's what I base my decisions on. Now, yes, the technology is out there and I should make more use of it. I understand that. But listening to us on Fridays talk about the stuff that we're reading, the stuff that's out there, I think is important for those of you out there who are actual readers, so you'll know what's going on. I mean, one of the books we're going to talk about later on is Sirens of the City. I had no idea about this book until Paul mentioned it when we were on a show live, much like we are now. So there's stuff out there for us. It's just few and far between. You just got to kind of search for it. Now, somebody said that David Walker was a two-time Eisner winner. He's a three-time winner. He's won the Eisner three times. One of the things that he won the Eisner for was a book that I enjoyed greatly, was Bitter Root. The only issue of that I'm missing is issue number 1, but that's an extremely good book.
Yeah, Derek corrects me. Isaiah Bradley was not the first Captain America. He was technically the second Captain America.
That's right. Correct. Right.
Right. He
Because
was the Captain America during the Korean War.
Correct. Because after Steve Rogers went missing, they tried it again. They experimented on the black folks, much like the Tuskegee experiments, and Isaiah is the one who survived.
Right. But that's one gripe I had. But you can't blame these creators who come together in this book and understand. When we're looking at these creators, we've got David Walker, who's a legend. John Jennings, our fellow Black comic lord, did the introduction, beautiful introduction, on what a legend is. What's the definition of a legend and what makes it so important? Angelique Roche does a spotlight on Matt Baker. For those of you who don't know who Matt Baker is, he's one of the first African-American cartoonists, one of the first comic book artists to really blow up big. You can check out a video that we did where we interviewed Ken Quattro, historian, about his Invisible Men book, in which he does a large deep dive into Matt Baker and who he is. Angelique Roche does a touch upon that in this, because Matt Baker actually was a cartoonist or an artist for Atlas Comics, which was the predecessor for Marvel Comics. So he is recognized as Marvel's first Black artist, Matt Baker. Over here on Deathlock Demolished, Sean Damian Hill, great artist.
What would he have done that people would know?
What?
What would he have done that people?
Oh, he did the Bishop War College series recently. He did Blood Syndicate, on the recent Blood Syndicate for Miles 2.0. He's done work on the Isna Were Spider with Greg Elise Anderson. He's doing work all over the place. He's one of the hot artists right now.
And you saw, speaking of artists, you saw my boy is up here, right there on the right, Kanan.
Where?
down to the bottom right of the screen, Kanan White.
Oh, on the cover,
Cover.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, doing the cover work.
Now this doesn't look like his art style, but yeah.
But you've got and also on art, you got for the covers, Edwin Galman, who I consider one of the best upcoming artists out there.
What would he have done?
Edwin Galman, the last thing he did is another book that we're going to talk about, the DC Power book. He did the Val Zod story in that. Also did some stuff for DC and Milestone. I think he's a phenomenal artist. Paris Allen, who's a phenomenal colorist, is in this book. Mateus Manahini did a cover. He's a brilliant artist. I mean, this is some of the best and brightest Black creators out there. And they come together and say, hey, we're going to celebrate the characters that we grew up, that we appreciate, we know about, that we want to give voice to, our voices to our characters. You can't discount that and just say, I'm not going to support that because what I want is characters throughout the year. I mean, I get the reasoning why, but you're kind of missing the point. They're celebrating these characters, and they're celebrating the creators that make them. And I love the fact that one of the things that Angelique Roche did, she interviewed Dennis Cowan, whose birthday just passed a few days ago. Shout out to Dennis Cowan. Happy birthday, sir. A legend who's a personal hero of mine in the comic community is Dennis Cowan. And she does a really great interview, which I encourage all of you to read if you haven't already, to really understand the importance of legacy. The importance, you talk about, he's a legend. And they say, what inspired you? And he mentions names like Keith Pollard and Ron Wilson, and Arvell Jones. If you don't know these names, these are Black creators early in Marvel's history that have done books that I'm sure that you've read and you probably didn't realize who they were. Because Marvel, they don't publicize who are the Black creators in the early days. They were these other invisible figures. And these are guys that mentored Dennis Cowan. Guys that came up with him. So it's a bit more complicated when you talk about these books.
What's sad and disappointing though is it's obvious that there is talent out there. And when I say talent out there, I mean obviously people of color. And they will get them together and put them in this book, and then all of a sudden you don't see anything from them until the following year or during Juneteenth or another compilation book. Then you have writers out there or creators out there, like, as an example, Tom Taylor. I just finished reading something of his. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But over the past 2 years, there have been like 4 or 5 different books that Tom Taylor has been on. And he's an excellent writer. He's a phenomenal writer, right? But some of these other artists, some of these other creators, these Black creators, they are equally as talented if given the opportunity to showcase their skills on something ongoing other than these, one shots, basically, is what they are. And it's somewhat disappointing, but yeah.
Yeah. Style So Serious asks, what's the word, yay or nay? I will say there are some versions of this book over the years that I was like, that I could have missed that because nothing happened. This book I thought was a little bit more special.
I like the last story. The last story was the best one to me.
I really think they put a little bit more thought into this one. My criticism of these books is a couple things. I want these Black History Month specials to actually move a character forward. Don't just do a spotlight for 5 or 6 pages, whatever it is, and nothing happened. That's not the case with this book. This Deathlock story was dope. Michael Collins.
You're a Deathlock fan, though, an old school Deathlock fan, right?
Yeah, I am. I mean,
see, I'm not.
This one was cool because Michael Collins, there was a Deathlock series with another character named Henry Hayes. That's probably one of the more recent Deathlocks. You never found out what happened to Michael Collins. All of a sudden, Henry Hayes is the new Deathlock, but I never recalled what happened to Michael Collins. There was a Deathlock in this latest Black Panther run. Assumably, it's Michael Collins. I don't know if they definitively said that or not. But in this one, you actually see some things that you haven't seen in a Deathlock before, in terms of him battling his own AI. I'm not going to give away the story, obviously, but I thought that was an actual story. That could have been an issue in and of itself, because it actually explored the character, and that's the type of thing I like to see.
See, I've never been a Deathlock fan. I have some Deathlock stuff in my collection when he has made appearances in other books. I think it was Avengers 2099 or something that was recent, where he was featured. But I'm just, he's not been a character that I've really ever been interested in. But he has made a live action appearance in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was in there. I mean, for me, and to answer the question, I enjoyed the book. As I said, there are 4 stories in it. One story to me is really good. The other story is good, and the other 2 stories are decent. One of them being the Deathlock story that he was talking about. So I would say, yeah. This is Marvel's version. DC does one too. Now, personally,
before we get to that, I just want to talk. This is Wakanda Whiskey Blur. We didn't talk about the Black Panther section. A couple of interesting things to note in the Black Panther section. So here's the thing. This story has to do with projecting into the future, where T'Challa and Storm get back together and they eventually have children and obviously grandchildren.
See, I
want this
to be a surprise for folks.
What?
I said I wanted this to be a surprise for folks.
It's in the solicits. I mean, that's not really a big surprise. I'm not going to go into it, but they have grandchildren. But I thought there was one particular scene that a couple name drop things that they mentioned I thought was interesting. Let me pull this up here. There was a splash page that was I can't do that without being a spoiler.
See, not everybody gets the solicits. A lot of people are like myself, and they get the books because they see the cover or somebody refers it to them,
There's a reference that I thought bared some exploration.
Well, let's do that next week after it's been out a week.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll talk about it next week because I'm going to give you guys a chance to read it. We'll do a deep dive on it. Right. Because there's a couple things that were dropped in the story, some one-off statements that I think warrant some explanation. So let's move on to the DC Power book.
Now, here's the thing with the DC Power. Marvel does the Marvel Voices Legend. DC does their DC Power. I personally did not buy the one this week. It's a thick book. It's a sturdy, hefty read. And
it was $9, $10,
right?
It's over 100 pages.
I didn't get it because I still haven't finished reading the one from last year. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and leave that one in the box and get it later. But they do the one for Black History Month, and they do the one for Juneteenth, and those are very thick reads. And DC puts a lot into them. I just, it's hefty, and I just haven't gotten around to to reading them. So,
what can I say about this? Let me start with the characters on the cover. Unlike my criticism of the Marvel book, all of the characters you see on the cover of this book actually have stories within this book.
So
This is the
tell
cover
people who everybody is.
This is the cover A. There are other covers. Um, the other covers may not have the same thing. They don't have the characters that are necessarily inside the book. But the
But
cover
this,
A
right?
does have all these characters. In the
Okay.
corner here, in the reverse, that most people don't recognize,
Oh wow.
is the Spectre, Crispus Allen, the
I don't
police officer, the police detective, turned basically god of the
Avenging
dead.
Angel of God.
Yeah,
He's
sort of
he's.
thing.
I guess he's the Living Tribunal. He's the DC version of the Living Tribunal.
Sort of a living tribunal mixed with Ghost Rider, sort of thing. There's a Nubia story in there. There's a Valzad story written by he who shall not be named.
That's you know what
Um,
that in and of itself is enough for me not to buy this book.
Stop.
Oh wait, till he gets on discount.
However, although it's written by him, the artwork is by Edwin Galman, and that artwork is absolutely beautiful.
What would
I mean,
people know
it's
him from?
it's fantastic how Edwin Galman draws Valzad, and he paints in watercolors or something the equivalent of that.
Like Alex Ross.
Um, I think what rocks to me seems more acrylic than watercolors. But Edwin Galman's does these scenes where you see Valzad flying in space that are it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful to look at.
What has he done that people would know? Because understand something, Paul. Not everybody has the knowledge that you do when it comes to the artist.
I mean, just Google Edwin Galman. As I said before, he did some work for Milestone. He's been doing a lot of cover work now. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. There's a story with Sojourner Mullen from Far Sector, sort of the bridge the gap story. It's almost basically a 13th issue, because I think Far Sector went 12 issues, if I'm not mistaken. So this is basically the 13th issue, saying how she left the Far Sector to come back to Earth, Sector 2814, with John Stewart, who she meets for the first time in the storyline. It was a great wrap up. There's an interview with N.K. Jemisin in which she says she never really got to wrap up that aspect of her story, and she really felt cathartic because she was able to finish up some loose strings, some loose threads that she had from her story. So that was kind of cool. Cute story with Thunder and Lightning, the daughters of Black Lightning, who, quite frankly, I don't understand why they don't have their own series.
Hey, can you make this bigger? That image bigger, because I can barely distinguish them.
So here's your Spectre. Here's your Nubia story. The Nubia story is not only drawn but also written by Aletha E. Martinez. I didn't know she also wrote stories, so I thought that was kind of cool.
What would she have done that people would know?
She's been the main artist for Nubia since all the series.
Okay.
All the series that they've done. Aletha Martinez is usually the artist on it.
Okay.
So she's the definitive, in my opinion, she's the definitive Nubia artist.
Okay.
So
real
that
quick, let me just step aside real quick. You know who I could have seen about 15 years ago playing Nubia? Retina Wesley. For those who don't know, she was in True Blood and Queen Sugar.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But her accent, she's got that Southern thing. I don't know if she can do any accent.
How do you know the accent wasn't a fake accent for the show? Because she was playing a character from the South.
Like I said, she's had the same accent in both True Blood and Queen Sugar. So I get the impression that that's her regular speaking voice.
Also, the Duke Thomas story was cool. I can't say what happens in it because that would clearly be a spoiler, but I will say that what happens to him, what's cool about it, is that it would appear to be canon.
So, for those who don't know, the character name is Signal, and he's obviously part of the Bat family, but he is an enhanced individual. Unlike pretty much everybody else who just are trained, fighters, martial artists, etc. This dude actually has powers to a certain degree. So that's what sets him apart from other individuals.
What can I say about the DC Power book? Again, Black History
how
Month
many
book.
stories are in it?
Huh?
How many stories are in it?
Let's take
One,
a look.
two. So 5?
No, it's more than 5. In fact, the cover doesn't show all the teams that are all the characters. Here's the list: N.K. Jemisin, Jamal Campbell, legends.
When
who
you
did
say
the
that,
enduring
tell
farewell
folks
story with.
what they would know them from.
They would know them from the Far Sector book.
Okay.
They were the writer and artist team on Far Sector.
Okay.
The Session, Sean Martinborough, with Tony Atkinson and Moritad as the artist. We interviewed Sean Martinborough last week. Phenomenal writer and artist. That was the story involving the Spectre. If you're not familiar with the Spectre, that's cool, because he does it in a way where you can familiarize yourself with the character, and it's a good one-shot story. What I enjoyed about the DC book is that they're actually small one-shot stories that could be in continuity of any book. I thought it was pretty good. The one, Lost at Sea, written by Deron Bennett, art by Dennis Cowan, is a Black Manta story that was dope.
Hold on, Darren Bennett. What people know him from?
I don't know Deron Bennett, but I know Dennis Cowan.
Okay.
I already talked about the Who Shall Not Be Named and Edwin Gallman. I had some issues with that story because, it's the dude. Not just because it's written by him, but I had issues with the story. I thought, if anything, it was He Who Shall Not Be Named speaking to his detractors. That's how I interpreted that story. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've read the book, or if you're going to read the book, keep that in mind. I think that is him talking to his detractors about who he is and what he has done.
Nobody cares about him. But let me just say this. One thing that's disappointing, other than, writing bad comic books, this dude, the one who we're discussing, who wrote Pure Blackness, I'm not going to say the name, he's a movie producer. I want to say he's a movie writer as well.
Yes, he won an Oscar for 12
Years.
Right.
No. For 12 Years a Slave. I just didn't know if he actually wrote the movie or was just a producer on it.
No, he was a writer.
Right. So 12 Years a Slave, that individual was associated with that movie. So he is not unfamiliar in Hollywood. What's crazy is he's got a new, I want to say it's a series, maybe it's a movie, coming out on one of the streaming platforms about Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm was a Black politician who was elected to Congress. I want to say at the time, she was the only Black person in Congress back in the 1970s. And she has a movie coming, a show or something coming out that stars Regina King, who I absolutely love. But the problem is he's associated with that program, and it's turning me off from actually wanting to watch it. So, anything that he touches, I just have no interest in because of what he did in Volume 8 of T'Challa. Of Black Panther. If I do watch it, it'll be bootleg, but I have no interest in anything.
Frustrated mentioned something about the Marvel Voices I forgot to mention. On the last page of the Marvel Voices book, it tells you what other books have Black leads in them. It's about a half a dozen books. So out of all the books that Marvel has, it's about a half a dozen books that Marvel has Black leads in. 2 of them are books that are canceling, which is Luke Cage, City of Fire. Final issue is out or coming out. And then Black Panther is on its penultimate final issue. Issue 9 is coming out, and 10 is the final issue of that run. So I don't know if they're going to replace those with other books, because it also mentioned the other books that have yet to come out that are going to be ongoing, at least limited series. Night Thrasher, Ultimate Black Panther, Miles Morales is still going on, etc.
I'm getting that Mace Windu book too, and I'm not even
The
a
Mace
Star.
Window book. That's one of the ones they mentioned.
I'm not even a Star Wars fan like that. Like, Paul told me about the Star Wars. I don't remember the name of it that came out a couple of years ago, but I stopped reading it because I just really wasn't interested in it. I am going to be getting the Mace Windu book though. I am looking forward to that.
The other thing interesting about the DC book is these characters that they do, they actually put little bios of the characters at the end. So this actually raises a good point about what the distinction between this book and the other book. I'm not saying one book's better than the other. I think they both have their pros and cons. What I liked about the DC book is that it was a celebration of these characters. I mean, it's a celebration of the artists as well, because you got these creators, these phenomenal creators working on this book. But it's almost like a great introduction. Like if you're not familiar with these characters, this would have been a cool introduction for those who are unfamiliar. Yeah, I could see someone taking this book, going to a school and giving it to a kid in the school and say, here's some characters you might want to go do a deeper dive on. I thought if that was the intent, I thought it was really cool.
Question.
Yeah.
The Fair Play storyline, is that about Mr. Terrific?
That's about Mr. Terrific.
Okay.
That was about Mr. Terrific.
So I may go ahead and pick it up.
Yeah, Mr. Terrific, he's one of my favorite DC characters at this point.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that story. I think that one's the one that was written by Greg Burnham, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. And what would people know him from?
Well, most recently, he's done the Little Rock Crime Files, I think it's called. I have it around here somewhere.
I'm not familiar with that.
He's also done some work for Milestone as well. The Signal story was dope. Outsider's book and his 3-issue mini was pretty good. Look into his powers. The Signal is a great character that doesn't get enough love. What's up, Sierra?
Good afternoon.
Frustrated says the Ministry of Compliance is actually really good.
What's that?
That's the book by who shall not be named.
Have no interest in it. Next. Yes, we can, Styles. Yes, we can, and we are.
Yes, we can. In the words of President Obama, yes, we can. Skimming through the book, no President Calvin, Superman, disappointed, want my cold cash back. It's Val Zod. It's the other Black Superman.
Okay, so explain this. So for people who may not know, it seems like there are two versions of Black Superman. There's Val Zod and there's Calvin Ellis, correct?
Correct. Well, and Sunshine Superman, but nobody talks about him.
Okay, I'm not.
Yes, Lord, forever. It's a limited series.
Okay, so how does that work? They're in different universes, obviously, right?
Val Zod's from Earth 2. I forget where Calvin Ellis is from. I forget what dimension he's from.
Gotcha. Will Night Thrasher be a limited series? I do not know. It is on.
It is. It's a limited series.
Okay.
It's one I'm looking forward to. Night Thrasher was my dude in the 90s. New Warriors was my book. I literally, every volume of New Warriors, I think I've got complete sets of every volume of New Warriors. But I collected
the original New Warriors.
The original volume 1 is the best by far.
Right. I have the original 4-issue Night Thrasher storyline, but Night Thrasher was never one of my favorite characters or anything. I enjoyed the storyline because they were like the Young Avengers, for lack of better terms.
Derek says Burnham also did Tuskegee Airs. I can't believe.
Okay, so I have one of those. You know what's crazy, Paul? Erica gave me a Tuskegee Airs book.
I was bitter about that. She didn't give me one. But,
Erica's one of our law school friends, and she gave me one for like Christmas or something. I haven't been able to find any of the other ones to complete the run.
So at the end of the day, in terms of the debate on these Black History Month books, I think along the lines of making these books, you need to have several factors. You need to have Black creators doing them. You need to recognize the history of prior legendary Black creators. I think that's important because that's what Black History Month is about. It's about our history. primarily. You need to recognize these characters that don't get any shine, because that's part of the history, the comic book history, Black comic book history. But moreover, instead of just doing stories that just are just stories, to make it worth the customers or the buyer's buck, have the stories be meaningful, meaning that it moves the character forward. Have an event in that book that could be like another issue of a series with that character in it.
To
I
piggyback
want
off,
I want there to be changes in that character. Like what happened with Deathlock, based on the end of that, it had a question mark, like the end question mark, and you're like, literally, that's kind of a cliffhanger. What's going to happen next?
to piggyback
That
off
was
what
well
Paul
done.
is saying, every year Free Comic Book Day is May, the first weekend in May, right? And I never really used to pay attention to the Free Comic Book Day books. They're free, whatever. But a lot of what occurs in the Free Comic Book Day books are canon to whatever specific character. So basically, what he's saying is don't just have it be some one off alt world story or a thread that's never pulled on or plucked again. Make it integral to the characters that it's discussing. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I like Frustrated Fan Show's point here. Make it a
or
preview of an upcoming series.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Marvel has a timeless book, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
timeless book, it's supposed to be a preview of everything that's going to happen in Marvel over the coming year. Little glimpses of what Marvel fans can expect in the coming year in Marvel Comics.
But the timeless books have been about a specific character because a couple of weeks ago we discussed the timeless book that was basically Luke Cage, and then
No,
last year,
they've had different characters. No, every timeless books
no, no,
I've had.
I wasn't finished. The most recent one that we discussed was timeless was Luke Cage, and then last year or whenever it was, there's one about Kane, right? So it seems to focus, the ones that I've read seem to focus on a specific character, but then they never do anything that was brought up in that storyline in that book. So,
And here's two other ideas. The first one is Style So Serious. I like this one. DC could have done a complete series for the month like they did Silent Night in December. Why can't, instead of doing a singular book, do a crossover event? Right? Why can't there be a crossover event for the month of February that involves Black characters? Because I don't want that in my book. That seems like just creating woke comics. I don't need wokeness in my Thor book. I don't need wokeness in my Superman book. That's probably why it doesn't happen. But if you're truly trying to celebrate Black history,
then don't
and
just have
you're a
one
big
off
company
book.
like Marvel and DC, and you want to celebrate your Black history with your Black characters or your Black creators that you've employed, put those Black creators on a crossover story. I mean, look, particularly with like DC is all about legacy, right? That's why we have our core characters that are just different versions of them. You have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Green Lantern,
That's pretty much it. Those are
and
those are the
Flash.
main,
And Flash.
and Flash, yeah.
So everyone, all the characters we have are variations of those characters. That's how DC works. So there are quote unquote Black versions or Black parts of that legacy on all of those characters. Have a major storyline where all of these characters show up, or within those books, here's another one. Have a backup story. DC's great about doing B stories in their comics. For the month of February, if you want to do Black History Month, do a backup story in the main books in which you either have a Black character you've taken off the shelf, an obscure Black character, and have them do a regular story. And then
Not
you
even
feel.
obscure. Mr. Terrific hasn't. Well, you know what? I take that back.
Hold on. Let me finish the point.
Go ahead.
Here's why it's important. DC has more Black characters than even Marvel has in their history. And a lot of these characters people don't know about, especially younger people. They definitely don't know any of these characters, and they're great characters, and they can be explored, and they can be given their own series with enough promotion. I'm not one of those people that says, you know what, the reason these characters don't sell is because they're black and people aren't going to buy black characters. I think that's BS. I think comic book buyers will buy what is promoted well. Um, we bring this up all the time. Marvel turned a talking squirrel into international superstar. Anything can be made successful with the proper promotion. An easy way to do that is make these backup stories in your main hot books. If you truly want to be inclusive, you truly want to promote these characters, if you truly want to give shots to these black creators, let them do backup stories in your big books that are selling well during the month of February. And you can use obscure characters, you can create new characters.
Then
If
they're
you
going
don't,
to be
if the creators don't want to use their IP, waste their IP by making new characters they'll never own, which I get. Trust me, guys, I do get that. All these old characters that haven't been used in God knows how long can be put in these backup stories and rebranded, refreshed, give them a new costume, give them a change in their power, let them be creative with these old characters, and feel people out and see if they're hey, you know what? I thought that story was kind of interesting. I'd like to see more of that character, and it's your test base to see what other books can we, what are we willing to take a risk on and make another limited series on, and see if we can run that limited series into an ongoing series. That's if you're truly about diversity and inclusion, that's how you do it, and that's how you make money doing it, and it makes sense more so than a one-shot book.
And I'm not going to disagree with any of that, but unfortunately, you'll have the Hotepians out there who will complain about the fact that these black characters are not in their own books, but are the quote unquote B stories to predominant white characters. And I was getting ready to mention a moment ago about Michael Holt, aka Mr. Terrific. He had his own book that lasted 8 issues, I want to say. Then he had basically, which was DC's version of Fantastic Four with the Terrifics. And I really enjoyed that book. It went about maybe 31, 32 issues. But this guy is on the shelf. You don't see him anywhere. And I was about to say that. But my understanding is he has appeared a lot in Flash books. I don't read Flash like that, so I don't know. People, maybe folks out there in the chat can say if that's true. But, to me, there's no logical reason. If Batman can have literally 6 or 7 different books that are ongoing right now, to me, it doesn't make sense why Mr. Terrific doesn't have his ongoing book.
Right.
Personally. But, All right.
Right.
So,
I mean, I like Sierra's comment here. It seems like some companies are making Black History Month an insincere money grab, though.
yeah, of course.
That's what it is. I mean, if you're truly sincere about celebrating us, if you're truly sincere about celebrating our culture, if you're truly sincere about celebrating your own characters that you own the IP for, if you're truly sincere about celebrating the Black creators that helped make your companies great, then be about it. And you're not going to lose money if you do it right. Put backup stories in your real books and expose it to the larger community.
Your real books. Look at what you just said. Backup
your
stories
real books, your real books, the ones that you promote, the ones that you spend money on, the one that you merchandise, which is where your real money is, the one that you put on lunch boxes, the one that you make Halloween costumes for, the ones that you put on the big screen and in cartoons. Yes, your real characters, your real books.
Speaking hold on a second. Speaking of live action and speaking of all that other stuff, when the new Superman movie comes out, I think it's Superman Legacy, Mr. Terrific will be making a live action appearance, right? He's going to be the real Mr. Terrific, not the version that we got in the Arrowverse. That was an abomination. What do you think about the actor that they have playing him?
That's the wrong actor. There's a lot of guys that could play Mr. Terrific. I didn't want him to play it.
Right. So for those who don't know, in the
And you
upcoming,
wouldn't want it either because you have that whole if they've played one superhero character, I never want them to play another one.
correct. So for those who don't know, in the new upcoming Superman movie, they're going to have Mr. Terrific make an appearance. I don't know how long it's going to be or whatever. The actor who's playing him, who I think is a good actor, I cannot say his name. I don't know his name. I'm looking it up as we speak. But he was in X-Men First Class, which came out 13 years ago now. X-Men First Class, he played not Evelyn. What was his name?
Darwin.
Darwin. The actor who played Darwin in X-Men First Class, his name is Edie Gathegi. Gathegi. So he's basically going to be Mr. Terrific. He's a good actor, right? He was in this show on one of the streaming platforms about a startup company. He was really good. But that aside, the dude is like 44. He's way too old to be this character.
They're not serious about having Mr. Terrific long term.
Being long term, right?
Somebody like that.
If you were serious about having this character long term, you would get somebody who was, late 20s, early 30s. Because understand what Marvel did when they were building their Marvel Cinematic Universe. Other than Robert Downey Jr., when they first started, Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, both of those dudes were late 20s, early 30s when they start. And they're the nucleus of the MCU. You don't pick somebody in their mid 40s to start off one of these roles. You just shouldn't do that. So I don't know. I'll go watch the movie. I'm somewhat vaguely interested in it, but I think he was miscast for a couple of reasons. But anyway, next book.
Okay. Going in alphabetical order because Mark is OCD like that.
I am not, but it makes sense to do it that way.
Killadelphia 33.
So here's a question that I have.
I have one criticism on this book. Go ahead.
All right. So we're not going to go into spoilers on this book, right? Because it just came out this week. We can do a deeper dive later on. But obviously on the cover of the book is the Savage Dragon. Back when Marvel first started in the 90s, what was it, 91, 92, 93, in that, somewhere in there. Savage Dragon was one of their titles, right? He was I don't remember the character's genesis or his history or anything, but he looked to be a black dude who was green with scales.
Did that Savage Dragon or somebody else?
Savage Dragon.
Okay.
Like because when you look at this character, he's clearly got black features, right?
Okay, so I that's why it was my confusion. Yes.
Right.
This Savage Dragon is Malcolm Dragon. That is the son of the original Savage Dragon from 1993.
Okay, so right, and so that character, are they mutants? What's their issue? What's going on with them?
Going into the origins of Savage Dragon is always a bit murky. In some iterations, I think the origin was given that he's actually a alien or something. But the point is, his son is half black, half whatever the hell Savage Dragon is.
Okay, right. Okay, so without going again into any specific spoilers in this issue of Killadelphia, right? Thank you, Beyond Wednesday, because I was baffled. Well, I was somewhat baffled, but then at the end of the story, I was somewhat clear, but I wasn't clear about their story. And so going to Savage Dragon, has the original Savage Dragon from the 90s, did he die or something?
No, well, yes. Yes.
When did that happen?
I don't remember. It was several years ago, man. I don't remember. I stopped collecting Savage Dragon a while ago. But I kind of collect it sporadically when I see something pop up. But yeah, he's been dead a while.
Okay. And so
his son has replaced him as the Savage Dragon.
His son has replaced him, and his son is clearly part black.
And his son actually just got married
So the son is a cop. He is a Chicago cop, and whatever race he is or whatever, he walks around in public. He doesn't hide in the sewers like a Morlock or anything. He's out there in the public eye as a police officer, much like his father was before him. Reading this issue of Killadelphia, I enjoyed it. It is an Image comic book. Obviously, the Savage Dragon is its own Image character, so seeing the the cross pollination of these characters for me is a good thing. Even though I haven't read a Savage Dragon book probably since 1995, and that's not hyperbole.
Sierra, you should never feel like you can't.
I
ask
can't say when
question.
was the last time that I read a Savage Dragon book, but seeing this character pop up and seeing his black features, was kind of cool. But the story itself is a good one. It's one that I'm enjoying. This is 33. I'm sure that there are trade paperbacks or trade paperbacks that are out now. Rodney Barnes has done his thing with this book. Jason Sean Alexander's art is, as always, spectacular. I'm enjoying this book, and I especially like the backup story. This backup story about Johnny Gatlin, who we said last time was basically kind of like what's the Marvel character?
He's kind of like Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider, thank you. He's kind of like a Ghost Rider character. I'm enjoying this. I am enjoying this. And Sierra said I want to ask if he was black, but I don't want to get worse for not knowing. Yeah, like you, Sierra, I'm not that familiar with Savage Dragon, especially over the past 20 years. But when you look at the way he is drawn, to me, it looks like he's of black genealogy, despite his green skin and scales, because he has very prominent Africanized features. But I enjoyed this. And it seems like we got a new character who was introduced into here that's interesting. Yeah. I like this book.
I was pulling out this Savage Dragon I just got. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. One of his best friends, the son of, I think, Frank Darling, the police chief guy, he's getting married. I don't know anything beyond that, except that there's a whole bunch of black people on the cover of this book. I don't know if you can see that.
When did that come out?
A couple weeks ago.
So it's relatively new. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't collected Savage Dragon since it first debuted.
Yeah, to go back to Sierra's comment, never feel like you can't ask a question. There's no stupid questions. This in the Black Comic Lord space. It's a safe space. Everyone's there. Everyone's got different levels of knowledge. Marc asks questions all the time. Some of them are stupid questions, but
I never ask a stupid question.
I never call him out about it. Well,
I never ask a stupid question.
Not often. He died in the 240s. The original Savage Dragon.
He lasted that long? Wow, that's a lot.
Savage Dragon's been going on for a long time.
That's a lot. I mean, hell, if it's debuted in like around 91, 92, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Frustrated fan reader, the same thing I just said. It's okay to ask those type of questions. Yeah. Look, I'm not an expert either. I mean, I don't know everything. I don't know.
And see, that's one of the reasons why I want you to explain to folks, who certain artists are, what they may know them from, because not everybody has the deep knowledge when it comes to some of these things that others do.
Yeah. Malcolm's mom is Rapture.
So
Rapture was I believe a stripper back in the day, or a hooker. One of the two.
A cop being with a hooker is not a surprise. So I don't. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see. Amir says, not gonna lie, I like the hole in the wall part of the story more than the Savage Dragon part. That's because I've never read anything with Savage Dragon.
Right. So without going into any spoilers, to me, my memory is not like it used to be. So it's hard, when these books come out a month apart, I don't go back and reread the last story. So I may not remember every little detail, but it seems like in this issue, we have a new character who has been introduced. and that storyline with the new character is very interesting to see what was the genesis of it, of that relationship, um, all that stuff. So yeah,
Derek, thanks you for keeping the newer readers in mind.
got to, because we don't know who's going to be watching us. And Paul may be under the impression that all of us who are viewing this knows everything about everything, but that's just not true.
I
People
don't
may
think
be
that
getting
at
into
all.
comic books. People may be getting into comic books for the first time, and you may be mentioning a name like Dennis Cowan. Well, those of us who've been reading for a while may very well know who that person is, but there may be other people who don't, and they may have heard of one of these other works that they worked on, one of these other things that they worked on. So that's why it's important to know these names. I've said before, for the longest time, I never used to pay attention to the creators behind the books. I would pop them open and just start reading. I never, like, when I watch a movie, more often than not, I don't read the credits. I don't care who the third grip was. I don't care who the boom mic operator is. That's me. So more often than not, I used to not read who the writer was or who the artist was, but I'm doing better now, so that specifically when it comes to Black creatives, I can find their stuff elsewhere and support them. That's one of the reasons why I know the name of Kane and White. The first time that I heard about that dude was on a book Uber, and ever since then I always look out for his work because I really enjoy it. Right. Azor B says he never paid attention. You know?
Yeah, Malcolm Dragon's mother was a hooker turned superhero with electric powers.
Was she black? And if she was, that goes to
Yeah,
the trope
she
of
was black.
black
She was
folks with electric powers.
black. Derek says that's a mixture of tropes. Exactly. A
Yeah.
black superhero with electric powers who was a former criminal,
Well, depending on where you are.
and a hooker because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's two major tropes with black superheroes because Mark points out that not everybody knows this stuff. Two
Yeah.
major tropes in with black superheroes. One, electric powers. We have an inordinate amount of superheroes with electric powers: Storm, Static, Black Lightning, etc.
Black
Two,
Vulcan.
huh?
Black
What?
Vulcan.
But we don't talk about him. And
Two, they're being
two,
outside of the law. You've got Luke Cage. You've got Sam
can I
Wilson.
finish my statement, please?
Black. Go ahead. I know you're going. Go ahead.
Two, black superheroes that have criminal past.
Working
There's
outside of
always
the law. Luke Cage,
working.
Sam Wilson.
Luke,
Who else?
Luke Cage, Sam Wilson, Storm. Storm was a thief.
But she was pickpocket.
A lot of black superheroes had criminal past.
Thunderball, but he's not a superhero.
Prowler.
Even though T'Challa's kind of rehabilitate him. Who else? Now that I think about it, I can't think of anybody else.
We'll do a show on that. Let's see. Amir says, I need that noir cover for issue 33. I have covers A and B. I have interviewed Neil Adams once, and he said he created John Stewart to stop that trope.
Nice.
That's kind of cool.
He passed, right? He passed not long ago.
Yeah, he passed, what, 2 years
last year,
ago?
right?
Was it last year or the year before?
I think he died last year.
Yeah. He was definitely an ally in the community. Paging behind the scene, perfect trolling opportunity. Wow. I think Derek is starting to Herschel's starting to affect Derek and his trolling.
Bronze Tiger, was he?
Bronze Tiger also had a criminal past as well. He worked with, assassins, what have you.
Yeah.
And that's why I love what Mr. Barnes did for the superhero seesaw.
Yeah. So I don't know if I consider him a superhero versus an anti-hero, personally. But that's just me.
I don't know. How do you define seesaw? I mean, are there any superheroes in Killadelphia at all, other than Savage Dragon?
I don't know.
But one of the things that Mark said, like, look, Dennis Cowan, not everybody knows who he is. Well, it's important that you do know him. So happy birthday, Mr. Cowan.
This week in Black History, Black Comic Lord celebrates the artistry of Dennis Cowan. Dennis Cowan is a comic book artist with a flair for naturalism. If I didn't know any better, I thought the brother lived and breathed in brick-walled alleys, inhaling the pollution of the city streets and exhaling with pictures of agony and anguish. You see, it's hard to describe Mr. Cowan's art, so I'm forced to use a ghetto analogy. Dennis Cowan's art is like fish and grits. It's not first on the menu, but you're glad you spotted it. Visually, it tastes good and your eyes will be filled. Yes, filled, I say, filled with detail. They say the devil is in the details, but Dennis be like, hold my beer, because the brother crafts scenes and faces where it makes you wonder, did he miss anything? Each panel is filled with action, and though pictures cannot physically move, Dennis Cowan shows and proves that they actually can. From Batman to The Question to the Black Panther and others, Dennis Cowan's art speaks like Terminator X speaks with his hands. That makes him a bad man and worthy to be celebrated. Salute the living legend that is Dennis Cowan, a Black history legend. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And until next time, peace.
So if you don't know, now you know.
Since we were mentioning Dennis Cowan, I just happened to look in my CLZ app to see what books of Mr. Cowan's I have.
Well, you have his Black Panther limited series 4-issue run from 1988.
Highly recommend that you get CLZ Comics. It's an app where you where you can organize your comic books. It lets you know what you have, what you need. So just
the irony of you saying that, sir, does not escape me.
So just doing a quick run through of what I have of his. Speaking of the trope of Black characters with lightning or electric powers, I have the Black Lightning Hong Kong Phooey special, which was a DC / Hanna-Barbera crossover. Those were actually kind of fun. They were one shots where you would have a DC character matched up with a Hanna-Barbera character. There was a series of them, maybe about 5 or 6. Those were some fun books, but I have that. Django Unchained had books. Hardware, of course. Icon, of course. He did.
Dion's in the house, and the trolling begins.
He did some books on the Teen Titans. Black Panther that was shown, the Captain America book, and the Deathlock book, as well as a couple of Firestorm issues. So he's been around for a while. He's done work for, most of the major companies. A lot of times you'll have artists that seem like they're associated with one company or the other. But it seems like he's done work for all of the big 3. So, yeah.
He has. The man, as I said, is a legend.
He did a lot of stuff back in the 80s for Power Man and Iron Fist, it looks like.
And we have another super chat. And with that, I would play the super chat video, but Derek doesn't put any of these things in any type of sensical thing, but fine. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, next book.
Oh, we have another super chat. Thank you, Frustrated.
Donation. It's a donation. I thought it was the trash. Don't be hitting on me.
Thank you.
Keep this up. We might actually make our budget for the week. Let's see. Got a question here, Jay. Paul, if you'll be at MegaCon, will you be a table or just around? I will probably just be around. I'm still debating if I'm going to go to MegaCon this weekend. I thought about maybe taking my daughter to her first con, but she's not really, she hates like crowds and loud noises. And I think that might be a bit overwhelming for her. I'm still debating it. Someone in the community messaged me today asking what is the best cover of Ultimate Black Panther. What do you
All
say?
of them. Get all of them.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's take a look, shall we? It's a little off topic. It's a little random, Derek. But this is Wakanda Whiskey and Blurdom, and that is our dude, so we can't really avoid that question.
While he's doing that, shout out to Dr. Dupree who's watching.
Who's watching?
One of my boys, Dr. Dupree, Ravenel Dupree. He went to Morehouse and Miami like I did, if I'm not mistaken. He got his undergrad from Morehouse, and I want to say he got like his master's or something from the U.
All right. Let me pull this up. Now, is your question for the first issue or everything that has been solicited? Because here's the first issues. I must say that in his costume, I'm not feeling the open mouth thing. I've always loved the fact that the Black Panther was more mysterious because he had a full mask on his face that covered his entire face. But if you're asking me the question, what do I think is the best cover? It's actually not one with Black Panther. It's this one done by Boss Logic. This cover is crazy.
Yeah. Speaking on what Paul was talking about, that just reminds me of the Ultimate animation or animated movie that was based on the Ultimate comic books that came out, 15, 18 years ago at this point. There were two movies, Ultimates 1, of course, and then Ultimates 2, which focused on Black Panther. And in that one, the character, if memory serves, had the half mask. And the movie itself was not good because they had Black Panther transform into an actual Panther cat
was
man.
So bad.
It was
bad. I don't think I've ever watched it again since I watched it the first time.
Yeah, I have. I'm pretty sure I have it on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever.
They had Wakandans literally chucking spears.
Yeah, but I want to say he had that half mask look, but I do like the full mask. I like the old version where it's just his eyes, there's no mouth, and he had the mini cape. I think that's my favorite old school version of Black Panther, personally.
Huh. Seacole's Dennis did the Digital Justice arc in Batman's main book. Is that what I'm thinking of? Was that the digital comic? It was a digitally created comic that was put in print. Is that the book you're talking about? It's like from the 80s or 90s? Because I think I have that somewhere in my collection. Anyway, so what was the next book we had to do after Killadelphia?
Resurrection of Magneto.
Ah.
Now, this book came out 2 weeks ago, so
a little behind, but you can go into depth about it because it's been out for a while.
Right. So full spoilers on this one. Yeah. Now let me start by saying, while he's pulling that
up. I put the wrong one. Sorry, my bad.
At the beginning of this book, you have Storm in bed with that astronaut dude.
Craig the corny dude.
Yeah. Look, I understand logically and rationally that these are fictional characters. I get it. I understand it's all fake. It's all make-believe, right? But when I opened this book up and I saw Storm in bed with this dude who is not T'Challa, I got irrationally angry. Like, this legit made me upset seeing her hugged up with some dude who's not T'Challa.
Hold on, let me. There you go.
Like, she's all lovey-dovey. Dude looks like Killmonger, actually, right there. But, God, this made me mad. I really didn't like this. I really want him and her.
It's like if you catch your boy's wife out in a bar with another man, and you're like, "That's my boy's wife."
Yeah, yeah. Now here's something that's interesting. This is a discussion that has been ongoing on Twitter's or the X or however you want to call it for a minute on the sexuality of Storm, right? A lot of people seem to think that Storm is bisexual.
She
There
is.
has never been a panel that I can recall. Now, I don't read everything, but there has never been a panel or storyline that indicates that Storm is or ever has been in a um, same-sex union. People point to her and this
Did you
Asian
not read the
chick,
Uncanny X-Men with the Yukio written by Chris Claremont back in the day?
Yukio, right? That's her name. There was a panel that's been shown where Yukio is expressing what could be interpreted as a loving relationship or loving feeling or romantic feelings towards Storm, but it was never her, Storm, reciprocating verbally what was being expressed to her. So it seemed that it was a one-way street, perhaps, right? But in this book, Storm says, Craig, my summer rain, my rooftop in Japan, my quiet in the storm. So it could very well be interpreted that that rooftop in Japan could mean her perhaps dalliance with that Asian chick. I don't know. But, I was in a debate with some dude or some person on Twitter, a couple of days ago about this. And we were going back and forth. That person finally acknowledged that there was never anything expressly stated about her sexuality. But then they mentioned how Irene and Raven, aka Mystique and Destiny, back in the 90s were always paired together. And now just recently it's been divulged that they have always been in a relationship for 100 years, a romantic, loving relationship.
Married and have a child.
Correct. And so, things have changed. And I've always been of the opinion, if Storm is bisexual, gay, whatever, fine. Let the writers tell us that. But
They did.
This is the 21st century. And, there have been a lot of characters in comics, specifically Marvel, where they have expressly stated their, gay sexuality. You've got North Star, who first came out in 1992. You've got Bobby Drake, aka Iceman, who's gay. There are several different characters. That has never been done or said in reference to Storm. So, but it seems like they're maybe trying to ease us into this. But in reference to this panel, I said personally that I would much rather see Storm in a same-sex relationship than laid up in the arms of this corny dude. That just annoyed me. It really did.
It was confirmed of her sexuality in a Marvel Voices Pride book, in which she showed up to a meet and greet with other LGBTQ characters. And I think the panel literally said, like, why are you here? This is only for people in the LGBTQ community. And she's like, yeah, that's why I'm here. That was like last year, I think, in reference to her, as you phrased it. What did you say? Dalliance with Yukio?
Yeah.
Another super chat from our brothers over at the UK, across the pond, as they say. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.
Let's go! Let's go!
Thank you very much. Let's see. Fan for Collecting says, it's possible Craig may get powered up on a space mission eventually. The space job seems like something to build on. I mean, I think
Fantastic Four, probably.
that sounds like him getting some cosmic powers or something. I mean, that's possible. I could see that happening. Am I interested in that? No. Am I interested in Storm with anyone other than T'Challa? No.
Correct.
T'Choro forever. I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
If Ultimate Black Panther is as good as Ultimate Spider-Man, then it will be huge.
Correct. That reminds me, Paul said something earlier about black characters having black writers, and I'll disagree with that
I
because
didn't. That's not what I said. I
what
said
did you?
for Black History Month, you should celebrate the creators that are part of your Black history
Okay,
and give them characters to work on during Black History Month.
okay. So I misunderstood what you were saying. Um, because I personally don't think that just because a character is black, it has to have a black writer on it. And I was going to mention Black Panther and Hickman as an example because I put out a poll, and most
I'm
people
I'm
said
sorry,
that.
Mark. I don't mean to interrupt your flow, but Autumn Sugar gave us $2, and I need to celebrate that.
But Hickman wrote
Appreciate it.
the Ultimate Spider-Man book, and it is phenomenal. It is
Exactly.
very, very good. And then, going back to what Paul's always talking about, that Avengers run that he wrote, that was basically a Black Panther book, and he seems to really understand the character a lot. So, yeah.
Frustrated says, "Well, I guess Ultimate Black Panther seems like Storm won't be with T'Challa in that story either." Well, at least not initially, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
We don't know how things will end up at the end of the
Right.
series.
Right. Going back into this book though, because the book was more than just her laid up with this dude who's not T'Challa.
The book
As
is so much more than that.
yeah, it's about obviously trying to get Magneto back. And one of the things that I appreciated is that who does she go to for assistance but Adam Brashear, aka Blue Marvel.
Spoiler alert!
And
It's out for a week. Don't give me any shit.
he does not make enough appearance, much like Michael Holt, aka Mr. Terrific over in DC. Adam Brashear does not make enough appearances in the Marvel universe. One of the
You know
things
why? Because if they did, they have to keep asking the question: why doesn't this dude ever show up in more books? He's kind of interesting and he's very well powered, and it makes perfect sense.
right,
And they have to point out, well, we consider him way too OP for a black character. And then people start asking us questions like, why can't Kevin Grievous write him again?
okay. So one of the things in reference to this book, well, to Adam Brashear, and one of the things that I'm always talking about, and we're always
I have to do this for Derek. I apologize to interrupt you again.
Lord.
That's specifically aimed at Marvel Comics. I'm sorry. Continue.
Here's the thing. We in this particular space are always talking about how there is a lack of black superhero love in the big three: Marvel, DC, Image, right?
You keep saying the big three. I don't think Image.
I understand that Image is one of the big three. And so they had T'Challa and Storm together. They broke them up unceremoniously, unnecessarily. There was a point in time, very briefly, that Monica Rambeau and Adam Brashear were together. Then just randomly, I guess it was in the Photon book, it says that, okay, they're no longer together. And
for no reason.
I'm sorry?
For no reason.
For no reason. And in this book, it says Storm is talking. She's inner monologuing. And she says, for a moment, hold on, let me put my glasses on. Forgive me, I'm old. I can't see. Sorry. She says, for a moment, I'm reminded of Forge. And in that moment, I know exactly what Monica Rambeau saw in Adam. And I know exactly why she left. Why? I don't get it. Like, what about
because nice guys finish last, and you have T'Challa, who's literally a king, who's noble, who worships the ground you walk on, and he's not enough. You have Adam Brashear, who's brilliant, extremely powerful, cares about the world, and he's not enough.
So here's the thing. Al Ewing wrote this book, no relation to Dr. Eve Ewing. No relation to Dr. Eve Ewing, and he is on Twitter. And he hasn't responded yet, but I hit him up and I was like, yo, what does Marvel have against Black love? Because he's the one who put these words into her mouth, so to speak. I don't see why Monica left him. I mean, was he banging somebody else? I mean, was he beating on her? Was he not paying bills? Was he wanting her to go half on stuff? I don't understand as a reader, as a consumer of these characters, what Monica could see in this dude and say, you know what? I can't see myself with you. If it's the age thing, okay, yeah, I get that. Dude is like 80 something, even though he looks like he's in his 50s. If that creeped her out, I get it. I understand. But the way Storm is responding internally doesn't make sense to me. What is it about Adam, who went out of his way to help her, make her Storm think, okay, yeah, this dude is nice, he's smart, he's strong. Yeah, I can see why Monica broke up with him. It doesn't make sense. I do not get what Marvel has against Black love. I don't get it. But yeah.
C. Cole asked, didn't Dr. Ewing explain that in her interview here? Not really. Well, kind of. What Dr. Ewing said when she broke them up, about why she broke them up.
Oh, so wait,
that
was her who did that?
Yeah. So what she said in her interview was this run of Photon was to explore Monica Rambeau herself, because she's only had 2 one-shots before. She's never had an ongoing series or even a limited series ever before the Photon series. And so she thought this was a great opportunity to explore what makes Monica tick. And in order to do that, she doesn't need her to be part of the Avengers. She doesn't need her to be part of a relationship. She wants her to just be an exploration of who she is.
All due respect to Dr. Ewing, but that's dumb. She can have her. Oh, listen, Captain America has been in relationships, for example, with Sharon Carter for years. And then the Jewish lawyer lady, I can't remember her name, back in the 80s. Just because he was in a relationship, the books always explored his actions outside of his love interest. So she, Dr. Ewing, could very well have explored Photon or Monica without having to bring in Adam and without having to break them up. That doesn't make any sense. That's not logical at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
it's dumb. Just
can does being married or being in a relationship preclude a person from being able to explore who they are because they're part of a relationship?
Not necessarily, no. A lot of these people, a lot of these superhero characters are in relationships. We would never say that Peter Parker needs to break up with Felicia Hardy or Mary Jane Watson in order to explore himself or whatever the case may be. Hell, in the Ultimate book, in the current run of Ultimate Spider-Man, you have Peter Parker saying to Mary Jane, who he's married to with 2 kids, saying, listen, something is going on. Something is not enough. Mary Jane is like, is this going to affect our relationship? He's like, no. She's like, all right, boom, have at it. She being Monica could have simply said, hey, Adam, I gotta go handle some business. All right, bet, hun, I'm going to be down here in my underwater bat cave to try to figure out how to save the world. Breaking up their made no sense.
Well, Derek makes a good point here. He says you have to wonder how much of what we've been seeing has been written but simply vetoed by editors, especially after listening to the Stroman Johnson interview. I'm guessing a lot. There's a good point there. I've been talking about this for a while. I think a lot of the comics that we complain about that make storylines and plot points that just don't make sense, that don't explore stuff that we as fans want to see. We're the customers. We're the ones spending our money on the stuff, and we're not getting the stories that we want. And the more of these interviews I do with these creators, the more I see a pattern of, here's the story that I wanted to do, but the editors wouldn't let me do it. I got vetoed. These editors in these companies are the ones that determine what stories you and I get to read.
Which I understand. But here's what I want to know:
No, let me finish. Let me finish.
Did Marvel editors
It's
tell her to
clearly
break them
evident.
up?
It's clearly evident that there needs to be a shift in the editorial. One of the things I've said before, it's not simply about having black creators. You need to have black editors
Will Moss is
in the
black, and look
bullpen.
what he did.
Will Moss is not black.
He's not.
He's absolutely not black.
Okay.
You need to have black people in the editorial boards. There's not many black editors at Marvel and DC. DC is fortunate to have Marquise Draper, who is a young black editor who has been largely responsible for the DC Power book, for the return of Milestone, for the resurgence of Mr. Terrific in comics. That guy's been working behind the scenes to try and put more black characters in DC. Hats off to you, sir. One of the few black editors in a mainstream comic book company. But Marvel, y'all slacking. One of the few black editors they have is on there because he works on the Star Wars books. And so he's there to protect Star Wars IP. But we do have a lot of sisters in the Star Wars books, right? If you look at the High Republic books, 1, 2, 3, about 4 sisters in the High Republic books alone, right? You got a storyline going on right now with Lando Calrissian, the trial of Lando Calrissian. We got a Mace Windu book coming out. Who's the editor on those books? There's a black editor on all those books. Coincidence? I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. I want to know specifically in relation to Adam and Monica, was Dr. Ewing instructed to break them up, or was that
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Was that a decision that she herself made?
But I will say this: Dr. Ewing is a married woman. She has kids. She's a family woman. I mean, if you're asking the question, can I explore who I am without this? I don't know. That doesn't make. I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, I mean, it was a dumb decision.
I'm not going to use the term "dumb" with a woman who's a lot smarter than you and I.
I'm not. Understand what I said. I was very clear with what I said. I said that breaking them up was a dumb decision. It is not talking about her specifically.
Oh, yes. Breaking them up was.
I was clear, and it makes no sense. I don't get it.
Yeah,
that's rape by fraud. So yeah, no, that would be a problem. Wow. No. I just
Whatchu fan show has been hacked by Dion. Jeez, Dion's everywhere.
There's just no black love. I mean, the only black character that I can think of that's in a relationship, and I don't read Miles Morales, so I don't know what's going on with him. But Luke Cage is with Jessica Jones, and I think that they're married at this point, right? And that's an interracial relationship.
They're married with a child.
Has Night Thrasher? What's his name?
Dwayne Turner. No.
Foster? No.
Wow.
Thompson?
He's one of my favorite characters. I can't remember.
Well, whatever Night Thrasher's name is, has he ever had any romantic interests?
Are you kidding me?
I'm sorry?
I thought you said you read New Warriors.
Dude, that was in the 90s. I haven't read it since then.
Silhouette.
Okay, you're right. Is that the chick with the
crutches?
Crutches?
Yes.
Okay. So she was black, or she kind of looked kind of purplish.
She's black and Asian. Yeah. She's Blasian.
All right, her.
This is the question I was asking, frustrated to kind of answered it. I mean, this is what I was leading to. Relationships make people stronger because they realize that there is something more to protect and to die for. I mean, anime does it all the time. That's why I said I don't necessarily agree with that assessment that you're doing an exploration of Monica Rambeau and feel compelled to break up a relationship to make that exploration. I think, if anything, who she chooses to be with is really indicative of who she is and helps to define that person in a way, because the decision to be with a particular person is also defining of that person.
Yeah, it goes to your decision making.
Yeah.
You know, so it just doesn't make sense. So basically, you know, Spider-Man and Brown is a great point. Yeah, I I don't know. I
But look,
absolutely
beyond the relationship part of just to wrap up this resurrection of Magneto, because actually we've been spending all this time talking about a very small part of this book. Al Ewing, who is one of the best writers in comics,
oh,
he is. He's a phenomenal writer. He's a great writer. He's one of my favorite writers. That dude loves Storm. He loves the character of Storm, and it shows in all the runs that he's done with Sword, with X-Men Red, and with this series. He writes Storm lovingly, as with respect, and he puts her in the place that she should be within the Marvel sphere, which is freaking goddess, really. He's written some of the best scenes of Storm defeating Death, Storm defeating Tarn, the uncaring, undying, whatever his name is. The fight scene with Tarn. Major flex for Storm. Making her regent of Araco. Having her use her powers to literally terraform Mars into a planet that is serviceable for life. In this particular issue, she's like, I want to bring my boy Magneto back. So I am going to travel to Purgatory. I'm not going to tell you how she does it, but I'm going to travel to Purgatory to bring back Magneto. And she taps into her mystical side, which has been alluded to a few times over the years, over the decades in Storm's history. The first time being in a New Mutants book, which I can't remember the number, so I apologize. But Storm has a history that dates back to ancient Egypt and her family history with a woman named Asaki, who was a mystic. There's even been some allusions that one of her ancestors was a sorcerer supreme. So beyond being a mutant, Storm has a mystical power. This was most recently specifically pointed out in a Scarlet Witch book. I think it was like a Scarlet Witch #2 or something like that. That came out last year, in which Scarlet Witch said, "You know what? You've got a lot of mystical energy surging around you." And Storm's been tapping into that lately, and a lot of that has been done with Al Ewing's run. In this book, you see her flex in a way that you have not seen before.
It's Tarn the Uncaring.
Tarn the Uncaring. Thank you. He pops up in this book in the realm of Purgatory, and he's like, "Oh, you kicked my ass in life, but you can't kick my ass here because in Purgatory I'm all powerful." And Storm's like, "Okay, cool.
We're
gonna do this again. We're gonna do this again. All right, let's do this again." Boop.
The one thing that I'll say about this, going beyond the relationship of her, you know, opinions on the relationship between Adam and Monica and her relationship with that Craig fella, it seemed very convoluted though, with what she was saying, how she was trying to bring Magneto back. I found that very convoluted.
You're doing too much, bro. You're doing too much.
Yeah, it was interesting, but it was a lot going on there. I think it was overdone. I think it was overcooked in that regard. Yeah. But it's
any relationships good in superhero comics, and include Reed and Sue Richards, because they are boring and nobody cares over time.
Well, I like them.
I don't think that's true.
I don't disagree. I disagree with that.
Can these black editors on Star Wars fix Finn? No, because it is canon that Finn is nobody. Even though that's not what he originally was supposed to be. He called Raven had a written Justice League episode about the N-word.
Did it air? That doesn't sound familiar.
Apparently it was cut, is what it was said.
Oh.
I think Marvel just has many different story paths for Storm and Black Panther. They don't want the combo. Maybe they see money in keeping them. Look, that's what makes me and Marc mad. because the Coates run set them up in a way where they could be in a relationship but not have the issues that Marvel would worry about in having them be in a relationship. Unless I don't think I want to say that in a live. Some of y'all aren't ready to hear that conversation. But let's just say Storm's history in Marvel Comics is such that there are some writers who may feel that it's better that she remains single for purposes that they may have in the comics. I'm not going to touch upon that because that's just, I've had too much to drink to talk about that. But I will say that what Coates did in bringing them back organically was recognizing the fact that, look, we don't need to be married to be together. I'm out doing my King of Wakanda thing and Avenger thing, and you're out doing your X-Men thing and running Araka, whatever. Well, it wasn't Araka at the time, but you're out doing your X-Men thing. I don't want you to feel like you're defined by me or us being married and you have to be queen and have all these duties of Wakanda. And you don't want to feel like I am a burden or you have to divert your attention from being King of Wakanda by being with me. So we're going to be together. We're not going to define it. And we're just going to love each other. What the hell is wrong with that? It makes no sense.
It made no sense for them to break up.
Zero.
As I've been saying all the time, the only thing that I really liked about the Coach run is how he was organically getting them back together, but then all of that was destroyed in the volume after that. So that's why I will not support anything that other writer does.
Troy Graham says Superman and Wonder Woman made a good look. I know I may be, Troy, you and I may be in the minority in this. First of all, I'm one of those few people that actually liked the New 52 run by DC.
I did too.
I love the New 52 run. That's what made me get into DC Comics because I've been a Marvel guy my entire life.
But you were also a Batman dude, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, other than Batman. Batman's the only character I've consistently followed in DC Comics. Because I don't consider Milestone DC. But New 52 was my jump on point in 2011 to get into, was it 2011 or 2006?
Somewhere like that.
Was my jump on point is to get into DC Comics. And in that, they had that Superman Wonder Woman book. That was a dope book. And they worked as a couple. Like the conversations they'd have about him feeling alienated and isolated because he's an alien. And she's feeling the same way because she's basically a demigod. Like, that made sense. That relationship worked.
It does.
They got each other. It was well written.
One of the best DC alt-world storylines is Superman Red Sun. In Superman Red Sun, Kal-El doesn't land in Kansas, but he lands over in Russia during the height of the Cold War. And he becomes a propaganda tool for Stalin. And he's, an agent of the state. And so Diana, as a ambassador from Themyscira, they were kind of toying with the idea of giving them a romantic relationship. It didn't occur, of course. But if the two of them got together, they could literally run planet Earth. Nobody could stand against them, I do think that relationship works. I think from a real world practical standpoint, Wonder Woman could absorb what Clark has to give more so than a human mortal. And I'll just leave it
in more ways than one.
I'll just leave it that way. Wonder Woman could take what he has to give.
Wow.
Full tilt.
Said that out loud. All right. That's not that you're wrong. I mean, the comic run of Justice League, Craig is for the birds. Craig, the corny dude. That's the one.
And, and all due respect to Craig, and we know that
he's an astronaut. Yeah, I get it.
We understand that he doesn't exist, but to hell with Craig. I'm going to start that hashtag training. To hell with Craig. I just don't like that.
Craig the corny dude is the hashtag. Craig the corny dude. So y'all just needs to get it.
Man.
Wow, he's gonna have to fight Wolverine and Cyclops for
Right.
that.
Well, he's already whooped Wolverine's tail multiple times, so that's not an issue.
Arm said both Monica and Aurora have stronger personalities than Sue Richards. They would stand beside their man, unlike Sue is mostly content letting Reed take charge. Yes.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. I'm a Fantastic Four collector and reader for years. When Sue Storm first came on the scene back in the 60s, yes, they had her always as the damsel in distress. She was the
she
girl,
was a
not
cringe
the
character.
woman. So she was the prototypical, stereotypical white woman Karen in distress. Going back to the 90s, they have shied away from the misogynistic version of Sue Storm and made her a strong, independent, married woman today. So she is not.
I think she's now Dr. Sue Storm.
She's not the same character who was introduced back in the 60s. So
Right.
although I do understand the point, Sue Richards of 2024 is not the Sue Richards of 1962. And
They've
she
upgraded
does, in
her.
fact, have a very strong personality and is viewed as the most powerful the most powerful member of the Fantastic Four.
Right. She's literally that person who's like, do you really want to fight me? Because I can just put a brain embolism in your brain right now.
And one of the main issues between Sue and Reed is that Reed, being the brilliant individual he is a huge nerd. He doesn't necessarily understand that building on giving your woman her time is a requirement. That's been the genesis of their debates or fights throughout the years, is the fact that Reed is more caught up in his science than he is in his woman. And so Sue needing, human interaction, she's so-called straight away. Not necessarily saying that she's cheating, but that's been the issue between the two of them. But no, I will push back against that, because Sue is, in fact, a strong woman and she believes in her family. So I will say that.
Troy Graham says that's true. There are no black superhero couples.
Right.
There are. They're just not in Marvel and DC.
And Image.
The only ongoing black superhero couple in mainstream comics in an ongoing series, current ongoing series, is Miles Morales and Starling. That's it.
Is Steel involved with anybody?
He's not. He's with a white woman. What's her name? Lana Lang. He got Clark Kent's leftovers.
Wow.
His ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
Which is a whole trope in itself. It's just
okay. I didn't know that.
Wow. Yeah, that's bad.
So Black Lightning has an ex-wife who is black, and he has 2 black kids.
Right, but he doesn't. He is not in an ongoing book. He hasn't been even in a limited capacity. Black Lightning, who is DC's, I was gonna say first black superhero, but Herschel's gonna give me shit about that.
No, it's
he's the first black superhero to have their own title. Let's just say that. He should be a bigger character than what he is,
right.
And he's not in any books at all.
He had a miniseries during the Black Lightning television series. There was something
he had the Outsiders series, which was a dope series by Brian Edward Hill. That was a great series. I highly recommend, if you want a dope Black Lightning series, Outsiders by Brian Edward Hill was a great series.
How many? So Brian Hill is a guy who's currently writing Blade, and he is the guy who will be writing the ultimate
Black Panther. Yeah.
Was it how many issues was it? Do you know?
A dozen or so. Okay. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. Right.
It was a great series too. I love that series.
Hell, what's my boy's name? Cyborg hasn't been in a relationship.
In that Cyborg series that Morgan Hampton just finished.
That's true. He was kind of He was. Okay, so there was a blog.
But that person didn't have superpowers, so it's not. I'm talking about two superpowered individuals in a relationship.
That doesn't count. That is correct.
Night Thrasher has a girlfriend who left him for his brother. Wow. Yeah, that's true. It's a bitter subject, and it's a subject that I hope it gets explored in Night Thrasher. I'm really excited about the Night Thrasher series. I love Night Thrasher. That was my dude.
Yeah.
Dwayne Michael Taylor. Thank you, Derek.
Dwayne Taylor.
Why couldn't I remember his name?
Yeah. Dwayne Taylor.
Night Thrasher and Silhouette were never officially don't agree with. They clearly were a couple, dude. That's I can even see the panels in my head where there's going over their past and how Dwayne, before he became Night Thrasher, joined up with Silhouette and her brother, and they were like fighting crime as vigilantes, and how they were a couple back then before she got paralyzed. So I disagree with that, dude. Gene and Scott aren't good. Madeline Pryor and Emma Frost. Gene and Scott aren't good. Madeline Pryor and
I like Gene. I like Gene and Scott together.
Yeah, we're used to it.
But Scott
honestly,
has a type.
Scott and Emma were interesting.
That's weird. That's weird.
Scott and Emma were
I didn't read
definitely
any books with them as a couple, really. But just the idea is weird because by the time I got back into the X-Men, that union had already dissolved. But just the concept of them together is weird. Like, you can tell that Scott is a Boy Scout because how are you going to date some broad to read your every thought?
I hate to hear that. I hate to hear that Scott is a Boy Scout. Scott, look.
What I'm referring to, I said he had a
Cyclops be that dude, man. Cyclops is the one who started the Mutant and Proud movement. Cyclops is a dude who went up to Captain America and said, you know, when stuff goes down with mutants, you Avengers never show up. We're always the ones who have to clean up all the mutant problems. You Avengers literally never show up. You don't give anything about us. And he'll go to Captain America to his face and say that.
Yeah.
So don't sleep on Cyclops. Cyclops
nobody's sleeping on him. What I was referring to is he's
not a Boy Scout.
What I was referring to, it's enough drinking. What I was referring to is him being a Boy Scout in relation to his relationships. Because you're sitting up here dating a woman who can read your every thought. So that's what I'm talking about in him being.
How was he a Boy Scout when he ended up going with Madeline Pryor, marrying Madeline Pryor, and then when he finds out his ex-girlfriend, Jean Grey, is resurrected, he leaves his wife, who has his child Cable, by the way, to go back with Jean Grey.
First love.
He's not a Boy Scout. It's more of an asshole move, dude.
He that's not going to dispute that at all. But you understand what I'm talking about. All right? I understand that, you were talking about our whiskey-addled minds. What I'm referring to, he is a Boy Scout in that he is dating women who can read his every thought. And he chooses these women. So
yeah, that's a problem.
Correct.
Jet is the name.
Jetta
is the name. I saw Charles Martin. Yes, in the Black Panther, Ultimate Black Panther, the solicits, Black Panther is married to Okoye, and she is the queen of Wakanda and former general of the Dora Milaje.
Oh, wow.
And they sleep in separate beds. So it seems, I don't know yet, but it seems that they're alluding that T'Challa and Okoye is a marriage of convenience.
Or political marriage.
Or political marriage. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Not real love, because she
not a romantic relationship.
In the dialogue, she says, I married you because we were required to. So,
yeah. All right, Sirens of the City.
Hold on, let me just get through these comments real quick, and we'll go. The only couple we have is Bumblebee and Harold, who we never see now. The last time we saw them together was in the Titans limited series, which just ended. So that doesn't count. I'm talking about Black Super Love in an ongoing series. There are
actually Bumblebee is even retired, so I don't even consider that.
Well, the Titans run that just ended was a sort of prequel series. It had to do with the early years of the Titans. It's actually a really good series.
That one. I didn't read that one. I know which one you're talking about.
I'm actually surprised you didn't read that, because you actually collected Teen Titans.
Yes. I'm a huge Teen Titans.
I would recommend that you read that run. It was actually a really good run.
Yeah.
Let's see. Even in indie Black comics, there's no Black superhero couples. I would encourage you to read The Antagonist, sir, by Godhood Comics, because there is not only a black. Well, they're not superheroes; they're supervillains, but it depends on your point of view. They're not only a Black couple, but they're also a family. There's children too, which we never see in comics.
Hardly ever. Yeah.
Misty Knight and Sam Falcon are a couple, true, but again, in an ongoing series. They're not in an ongoing series. Neither one of those characters.
That's a weird pairing to me, simply because Misty was with Danny Rand, aka Iron Fist, for a lot of years, and I just don't like the fact of Sam getting Danny's sloppy seconds. All due respect, I don't like that idea.
Who's got the highest body count in Marvel? Iron Man, She-Hulk, Wolverine, and Storm.
Hercules or Thor.
What?
Not listed Hercules or Thor. They have the highest body count. But of those listed, I would say probably She-Hulk.
I would actually say Wolverine, only because he's like
older.
he's like over 100 years old.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Wolverine's been around.
Yeah.
And on the X-Men alone, Jean Grey.
Did they ever really do it? Or he just had Jean Grey and Wolverine?
Oh, absolutely. He's right now under the Hickman run. He's in a throuple with Scott.
Yeah, I saw that when they were like on the moon or something.
Yeah, that's weird.
Completely.
That's the one part of Hickman's run that just didn't really.
Yeah, that I don't.
A lot of people don't want to do deep dives on that, but
I don't jive with that.
It's very, very weirdly sexualized.
So probably Wolverine, Iron Man, She-Hulk. Like She-Hulk takes all comers, no pun intended. Like she was with Juggernaut before he
Juggernaut,
good.
Tony Stark.
Yeah. Eros, Star Fox.
Thor.
Yeah. Yep.
She's definitely a male fantasy fetish. These writers that do She-Hulk. But I think clearly Wolverine has the biggest body count because he's got a bunch of. There was a Wolverine storyline where Wolverine's children came back to kill him or what have you, and he had dozens of kids.
Yeah, so Wolverine. So of that list, Wolverine. But overall in Marvel, probably Hercules, probably some god, some immortal god, either
to reach
Hercules,
full numbers. Yeah, probably either Hercules
or
Thor.
Thor, Zeus, somebody like that.
Yeah. Troy Graham, they should have kept Storm with Forge.
I liked that union from the 80s. I like that union.
Yeah, no, fuck that. But the people of Wakanda have always called her the Weather Witch. I think the Wakandans always knew about her powers. She's the Hadari Yao in Wakanda. T'Challa made sure that she is a recognized god in Wakanda. My money is on Chameleon. I think he's referring to Craig
sleeping with Storm. That's funny.
I think there's X-rated scenarios in the danger. Jeez, Dion is just, you're trying too hard, dude. Craig is clearly a Skrull.
That's funny.
Stop teasing a relationship of they don't want it. Yeah, they don't. Who's to blame for no black superhero love? Agatha. It was Agatha all along.
That's funny.
C. Cole McDuffie did a JLA issue with Black Bomber, who is white and turns black, and he asked Vixen if he could use the N-word. She said no. Editorial cut him asking that. Well, that's one of the few instances where the editorial did the right thing. Storm, unlike the other relationships in the Marvel Universe, is looked at as T'Challa's equal, which makes her even more superior. Yes, but only when she's written by Black Panther writers, which are always the best writers for Storm. Derek, tropesy purposes that editor are happy to approve. It was Agatha.
Yeah, that was cute.
Along. Will Miles get with Gwen in the next Spider-Verse movie or Spider-Bite? You already know the answer to that, Dion. They're not putting him with Spider-Bite. They're putting him with Gwen because it sells. Yeah. I love the new 52.
I did too.
It's fiction, not nonfiction. The stories should write themselves without any limitations. Okay. Whatever happened to Bronze Tiger?
I haven't seen him in anything in quite some time.
We haven't seen him since. What's the last thing we saw Bronze Tiger in?
I can't think of anything. Now, understand, I didn't collect the Suicide Squad when it first came out, but over the past, say, 10 years, I've been slowly building my original Suicide Squad collection.
That series that Christopher Priest wrote, the Death. Wade. What's his name? Yes, Deathstroke. Thank you. Did he pop up in the Deathstroke series?
I'm trying to think. It's not standing out if he did.
Yeah.
But
I
he's
haven't
kind
seen
of been
Bronze Tiger in a
sidelined too.
while.
Yeah. Like even when
Actually, I think
they did the new version of the Suicide Squad about 3 years ago, he wasn't in there.
I think he showed up in Harlequin. I think it was in Harlequin. Harlequin did this storyline where she goes out into space. Lucius Fox's son, Luke Fox, who was Batwing, now has his own company, his own tech, what have you, sponsored a superhero team. Harlequin was on it. And I want to say Bronze Tiger was on the team as well, if I'm not mistaken. Storm can defeat all these threats, but can't defeat divorce court.
Especially when your husband is the divorce court. I mean,
yeah.
What can you do?
Doctor Strange should rebrand himself as the Love Doctor and fix all these relationships. Finally, Dion makes a helpful comment. Sunny night. Dion, does Storm being a weather witch make her a magical Negro? Interesting question. Basically, she is a magical Negro because she literally has mysticism and mystical abilities and sorcery in her background. So yes, she's a magical Negro by definition.
You guys are cracking me up.
I out with the last take. Wonder Woman can take Superman. Yeah, you were wrong for that one, but you're not inaccurate. It's no wonder why Clark likes Diana.
Yeah, he doesn't have to hold back.
Yeah, exactly. That they make more sense. Again, the issue in question was Justice League of America number 26 by McDuffie. Black Bomber is supposed to be DC's first black hero, who was really a white guy in disguise. Like, who approved that character? That's what I'm curious about. The last one Cyborg had was Jinx.
I have no idea who that is.
You don't know who Jinx is?
No.
Well, you don't read DC that much.
I have no idea who that is. Like I remember the original Teen Titans when Cyborg was fiending over this white chick named Sarah, I think it was, but that's the only love interest that I recall.
Sarah in the comics is not white. Well, that's not true. That's right. There's two Sarahs. One was white and one was black. It's very confusing. There's two Sarahs in Cyborg's life.
Civil with Namor because of Reed's part in killing of Dr. Bill Foster. Understand something. Speaking of that, more often than not, we know that one of the superhero tropes is death is not permanent, right? People die, come back all the time. Bill Foster
this is me waiting on Bill Foster to come back.
Has been dead now for 15, 16 years since Civil War. And he has not been brought back. Not like he was, an integral part of the Marvel Universe. Anyway.
Moreover, after they killed him, they introduced his nephew as the next giant man who had the same abilities, and we never saw him again after that. So they didn't even replace him, like kill him and then replace him with the next generation.
We don't see Rage, aka Alvin or whatever his name is, Elvin. We don't. I don't remember his name. So yeah.
Anyway, Sequel, the Rebirth Cyborg book, he had a love interest and sidekick, both of whom have not been seen now in 6 years.
Yeah.
Rebirth should stay killing. Dion's going full troll tonight. She has to make a decision between Logan, Scott,
She's with Scott. It's Scott.
It's Scott. It's Scott. Logan's who you go to when you just want a late night loving after 3 o'clock in the morning, but Scott's who you hang out with the rest of the day. Not only that, in the X-Men books by Frank Quietly, he forced Emma Frost to look like that was weird. Yeah, I remember that.
Wait, what?
So, remember you were saying about Scott being with telepaths?
Yes.
Emma, they had the scene in those X-Men, new X-Men books. I think it was the name of the series by Frank Quietly, where in his sexual relationship with Emma, she could become in his mind whoever he wanted,
and he had her be
Jean Grey, which was just creepy.
The fact that she would do it, considering her intellect. And her being a strong woman.
It was disturbing on many levels. It's like, why would you, who was a very
why would you do that?
confident, self-assured woman, want to portray other women to your man?
That's like Stedman being with Oprah and be like, "Hey, I want you to dress up like Beyonce." Like, why would
That's
Oprah do that?
that didn't make any sense to me either.
Yeah,
It's 2024. Everyone has at least one divorce.
I don't.
Dion's not married.
Shut
Shout
up.
out to Darren Shan, editor on Silver Surfer, Ghostlight, for approving some Black family life on the
Yeah,
pages.
yeah.
All right, cool. Fat Croba rivals Wolverine. Wow. How did Reed find out Sue was cheating? He asked to watch. Whichever one will piss Umar Johnson off the most.
Let's get to Sirens, dude. Because we've been
I
on.
gotta get these comments. I'm almost done. Bronze Tiger is probably at his nephew's crib chilling. Yes, he has a nephew, Ben Jr. New Giant Man was in War of the Realms miniseries. That was friggin'
I have the War of
8
the
years
Realm.
ago.
I don't remember him in there.
Yeah, he was in there, but that was a while ago. Tony Isabella was offered to write Black Bomber, and he went off on DC's editorial about it. There are 2 completed issues at DC of this, not done by Tony, who was supposed to take over at issue 3. All right, so let's get into our final-ish kind of book. There's one bonus book I want to talk about.
Sirens of the City has ended after 6 issues. I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Until November 20, 2023.
Okay. So, you mean 24.
24.
This was a good book. On a scale of 1 to 10, I will give this series about an 8.59. Love the artwork. I love the story. Again, I'm not going to get into specifics of this issue, but the overall story it's more like a Romeo and Juliet type situation where the males have powers to control women. Women have, witchy powers, and they're somewhat constantly at odds with each other. You have 2 young folks who are from these so-called different tribes. They meet up, they do their thing, and the girl gets pregnant. The star of the book gets pregnant, and it's set in the 80s in New York. So there is a style about the characters that are reminiscent of my high school days. I really, really enjoyed this book. 8.59. And again, I learned about this book on this very channel, talking to the man on your screen right there. That's why, I enjoy doing this because, again, I don't look at solicits like that. I get my information from people I know from the comic book guide. This is why we need to continue to do stuff like this on social media and tell others who are into this realm what else is out there to be read and viewed and consumed. This is a very good book. Really enjoy it. I love the art by Kerry Randolph. Really, like I said, I can't say enough about it. And I like how, so the book is basically black and white, but it has splashes of color here and there on every page. It is uniquely done to me, and I just loved it. I really did. I cannot say enough good things about it. This
Shout out to Kari Randolph,
yeah,
the artist on this.
He's a good follow on Twitter, as a matter of fact, too, because he responds to stuff. Frustrated Fan says Sirens was so great.
This is a great book. The world building is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You really felt absorbed in a very short period of time. From the very first issue, there was world building. You felt like you were in this alternate world in the late 1980s New York, where you have these supernatural and superpowered beings as being part of the sub-society, the subculture, the underground culture. And it's a mixture of both the supernatural, as I said, and sort of superpowered people, almost like mutants.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know how to describe it.
They're referred to as the uncanny, as a matter of fact. So,
yeah. It was just a cool book. Original concepts. I truly hope they continue it and do a volume 2, because this was a dope book. And it ended literally on the cliffhanger.
I don't know if I would
So,
consider that a cliffhanger personally.
well, the two groups going at it, the blues and reds going at it, was the last page.
Mm,
You don't know what's going to happen.
no, there was more. There was more. I don't know if you.
Mutants, demons, mystics, everything.
Yeah, but no, the way the book ended, I don't know exactly what you read or where you ended up at, but the way this book ended, there was no longer any fighting, and so it had a satisfying conclusion if it does not go any further than this. So you
Yeah.
may want to continue to read.
Yeah, it's dope series. Dope series.
So what was the bonus
I
book
hope
that
we
you
can
want to talk
continue
about?
that world.
What was the bonus book that you want to talk about?
Bonus book that came out this week. I don't know how many people bought this book, but Moonman by Kid Cudi.
Kid Cudi is a rapper,
He is,
and
but
he's also
apparently
an
he's
actor.
also a co-writer of this book. So, what is this book about? I did get this book. I did get a variant cover of this book. This was a, I don't remember if it was a, what do you call it? I believe it's an incentive variant. This is the Sanford Green cover.
Sanford Green is known for Bitterroot.
Yeah, I got the Sanford Green cover of this book. I enjoyed the book. Just to summarize what the story's about real quick, it is, let's see, where's the book? A space astronaut, black astronaut, um, goes through an Elon Musk type company called Janus on a space mission to the moon, and the whole crew disappears for 7 minutes. Nobody knows what happens to them, and they come back to Earth. And they're asked. They've been asked numerous times, "What happened to you during the 7 minutes?" They have no idea what happened to them during those 7 minutes. But as it turns out, the black astronaut dude who comes back home, goes to his family, what have you, realizes he's changed and he
No
has
spoilers.
some abilities. So that's all you really get in the first issue. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. It was cool. It was cool. I'm definitely buying the subsequent issues. There are a number of covers on this book. I don't know if I can pull them all here. This is the second. Oh, it's already up at second printing. So that's the first printing is this with the white lettering. The second printing has orange lettering. So if you want to go ahead and get that. Sometimes the second printings have low limited prints and they can be valuable over time. This is the cover by Erica D'Orso. This is a dope cover. I like this one a lot. This
Okay,
is the
so
Rod Reyes.
hold on. You mentioned the name. Who is that
I was getting to
artist?
that. This is the Rod Reyes cover. Rod Reyes did a lot of work for DC. He's a great artist.
But you mentioned somebody else before that. Who was the person you mentioned? Erica or
Erica D'Urso.
okay?
It's
So what would
Erica
people know
D'Urso.
her from?
I don't know. I've never heard of her before.
Okay.
And again, this is the Sanford Green. This is the 1 in 20 incentive variant. I thought this is. I love this image because you've got these people. You got a person literally holding a sign. Excuse me. That says "Fight the Power" and "Don't believe the hype," which are Public Enemy references
In the 1990s
in the
or 80s.
1990s. And remember, I told you the company that's kind of like Amazon type company, Janus. They got a sign saying "Anti-Janus." And then you've got all that protesting. You've got this astronaut. Symbolically, you've got this astronaut who's being protested by these people because the company that sponsored him going into space was this mega company that they hate. But his eyes are looking up. Look at his face. He's looking up. He is looking beyond them and above. He's got higher goals. I just thought it was a very symbolic looking cover. I dug that.
So Kid Cudi, for a lot of people who don't know, like I said earlier, Kid Cudi is a rapper who is delved into acting.
Yeah.
And a couple of things that he was in. There's a movie called X. I think it's an A24 or a Bloomhouse production that I have yet to finish. I started, but I haven't finished it. Where a group of folks are trying to make a porn, and he is the male porn performer. The thing that I first saw him in, or heard him in, I should say, is an animated series called Young Love. I mentioned it late last year. It's about a 12 episode, yeah, it's a 12 episode series about a black family. And I've encouraged people to watch it because we complain about lack of black content. We complain about black trauma porn. So whenever there are things that are not in that realm, we should support it. Young Love is one of those ones that should be supported. It is family friendly. You can sit down and watch it with the kids. There's no cussing. It stars a precocious little girl and her parents. It is a very good animated series, and he does the voice of the father. He's basically kind of a bum, but he wants to be a record producer. So he's living in a house provided by his in-laws. You know what? I don't think they're married, but basically his in-laws and his girlfriend, voiced by Issa Rae, and she is a hairdresser. And it's a very cute story. Much like I told you guys last year about My Dad the Bounty Hunter that should be watched, Young Love, the animated series, should be watched as well. And Kid Cudi is in that. So
Just to go through the covers real quick, the Christian Ward 1 in 25 variant. This is the 1 in 50 Matt Taylor variant. This was very busy. And the art style does kind of remind me of Edwin Gallman, actually. This was a cool cover. 1 in 100 variant. You don't get too many of those. By the great Bill Sienkiewicz, who's a legendary artist.
why would he be legendary? What would people know him from?
He's been in a bunch of stuff, man. I mean, he's worked on everything from Punisher to Batman. He's done inking on Dennis Cowan works. He's a legendary artist. Just Google Bill Sienkiewicz. Moonman. This is the MegaCon Aaron Bartling variant. MegaCon's going on in Orlando right now. I don't know if I'm going to go to MegaCon. I'll try if I can this weekend, either today or tomorrow, Saturday or Sunday. But this is, I guess, is an exclusive variant for MegaCon. So if I do go to MegaCon, I'll have to try and track this one down. This is another MegaCon by Matt Wilson, Virgin variant. This is a Rabbit Comics Ivan Tao Virgin variant.
What company is this book on? Dude, I don't like that at all.
Image? No, Boom. I think it's Boom Studios.
Boom has had a lot of good books.
Yeah, Boom don't miss.
Boom has had a lot of good books.
Revenge of Tristan Eaton Virgin variant.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
This
cool.
This is one I love.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is Image Comics Group, so I guess it's Image Comics. Stadium Comics Nuno Pereira Homage variant.
Yeah.
I love this cover.
That has
In
a
fact,
1970s Marvel.
1960s.
Actually, it kind of reminds me of Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. This, I actually ordered this one. I haven't got it yet, but I ordered this one. I love this cover. This is the Things from Another World Ryan G. Brown variant. You can order this one on Things from Another World, TFAW.
All of those are for issue 1.
All those are for issue 1.
So that was like, what, 15, 20 covers?
14 covers.
Jeez, that's a lot.
They always do the variants for the number ones because the number ones are always the biggest selling books.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And it's already gone to second print, so that tells you a lot. And one of the people in the chat mentioned that it's sold out at their store.
And see,
I enjoyed the book. You should check it out. Moonman #1.
See, Paul mentioning this is now going to make me go try to
Silver
pick it up.
Surfer #1 homage. That's what it is.
Yeah, because I never really paid attention to it. I think I want to say I saw it in my store, but I never paid attention to it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's all I have, man.
Yeah. So normally right now we go to what you're watching. There's really not much black centric out that I'm watching. The series on Amazon Prime, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, dropped this morning, and it stars Donald Glover and a young lady whose name I don't know. I'm gonna be
Oh,
honest.
the
Asian
Maya
chick.
Erskine, I think her name is something like
Okay.
that.
Okay. Um, I'm just gonna be honest. For myself, at least, I'm not feeling it right off. I need to finish watching episode one, but I was just so painfully bored. And when it came to the movie, you have Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, two very good-looking people. The young lady who they have playing the Jane Smith, she is a plain Jane. She's not a classic, what you would call a classic beauty. There are a lot of actresses that I could have seen in that role more so than her. Off the top of my head, DeWanda Wise, I could have seen in that role. Nicole Bahari, who is a phenomenal actress and who needs more work, I could see in that role. Um, if you guys are watching it, if you've seen it, it's 8 episodes, I want to say, and it seems like they dropped all 8 episodes this morning. Again, I've barely gotten through half of one. If you've seen them, what do you guys think? I don't feel the chemistry. That's one of the beautiful things about the original movie is you saw the chemistry of the two, even though they were kind of on the outs. When we meet them as a couple, they fall in love again with each other as they're basically trying to kill each other. But maybe we'll find that in this. It was just lacking for me. So that was it. So what are you guys? What are you guys reading? What are you guys watching? Oh, that reminds me. There is a book that I just bought, and it's not a comic book. It's a history book, so to speak, and it is called "The Black AF History: The Unwhitewashed Story of America" by Michael Harriot. Now, I follow him on Twitter, and he always has deep knowledge on a variety of subjects, and I never knew why. Well, it seems that he's actually an academician. So I'm really looking forward to reading that book. Again, it's called Black AF History, the Unwhitewashed Story of America. You can find it on Amazon Prime. I found out about this book Thursday at about 3. I ordered it on Prime. I got it today by noon. So, yeah. That's it, man.
Well, I think we have covered everything that we set out to cover tonight.
Yep. For those of you guys, as always, thanks for joining us. Make sure that you subscribe and follow. Hit the
And
notification button.
yeah, hit the little bell. Everyone who's watching right now, please. It costs you nothing. Hit the notification bell right next to the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button as well, but certainly hit the bell next to it. So next time that we come on, because sometimes we're here, sometimes we're not, you'll at least know when we're coming on. It'll give you an alert to let you know that when we're on, because Mark and I have lives. We got things going on. We travel sometimes, and we don't get to do this necessarily every week. We're trying to be more consistent, and we appreciate the fact that you guys who are, especially those who pop up in this space all the time, realize, hey, they're usually on around 9-ish or so on Fridays, so let me go check them out. But if you hit the bell, you'll definitely know when we're coming on.
My future ex-wife is watching too, so shout out to her.
Congratulations to Louisiana Kid for completing his milestone Blood Syndicate run, the original one by Ivan Velez. Great run. I love Milestone Comics. The original Milestone Comics, phenomenals. Part of the greatest part of my collection, my comic book collection, which is vast. So,
again, shout out to everybody that I know that's watching. Shout out to my boy Jamil. Shout out to Dr. Dupree and everybody else. Thank you again for watching us, and we'll see you next time.
And with that, we're out.